Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos los que nos fueron acompañando a lo largo de estas dos
To
jornadas.
all of you who have supported us and joined us in these 2 days, I think that we will need a lot of time to break down the different pieces of all the presentations that we had over these 2 days. That is why we have recorded all these sessions and they will be available in our channel. Among this large group of people who joined us from different countries, we have more than 40 countries represented in this symposium. And we thought it was important for us to
También con algunas participaciones
finish this symposium with some conclusions, but also having some important presences here. So I'm going to give the floor now to Nieves so that she can introduce our special guests for the closing session. Thank you, Maria Rosa. I'm going to ask all of you who participated in the workshops, if you can turn off your cameras. We are going to start now with a session that is very important. We call it the voice of youth, because ultimately, all of us educators, all of us who have participated in this symposium as experts or educators or administrators are at the service of students, at the service of youth. That is why we wanted to have a closing panel with three important youth representatives. First, Mariano García, who is part of the Uniservitate team in Argentina. Mariano shares with Sebastian from Australia and Oksana from Russia the fact that they have all participated in the Youth Synod and that they were able to be with Pope Francis and with hundreds of youth from all over the world in the preparation of this synod for youth. Ministry of Youth, as it is called in other languages. This task of evangelizing youth through youth. So as these are young people who have a broad experience in putting themselves to the service of others, but also to encourage and motivate other youth to get engaged in spiritual activities, we thought it was very important to have them here so that they can convey a message to us adults, those of us working in formal settings, those of higher education universities. So let me introduce first Mariano Garcia. Mariano was the president of the youth pastoral of the Bishops' Conference in Argentina. He was the one who led the second youth meeting with the participation of Argentine youth, and he also has a broad experience in the pastoral life, and he teaches religion, and he's part of the Uniservitate team. Welcome, Mariano. You have the floor. Thank you, Nieves. Thank you, Maria Rosa, for this introduction. Let me start by welcoming you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It is my pleasure to be able to take the floor in this session with these two great friends with whom we spent a month together with Pope Francis, with bishops, lay people from all over the world. So this has been a very interesting experience, and I'm very happy to be here now. I don't want to change the order now, but going back to our original plan, I wanted to make this brief introduction. So if you agree, I would like to extend our appreciation to all youth all over the world who have put their hearts, their minds, and their hands to deal with these difficult times for humankind at the service of those most in need. Youth have been the ones that have gone out to help together with many more people to set an example, to collaborate either virtually or in person. I want to thank them all. And I also want to thank all the people who supported and encouraged them, rectors, presidents, religious people, all people who encourage them to put themselves at the service of others. So all my strength to all of them. And I also want to take this opportunity to remind them that youth are not immune to disease, so they still have to take care of themselves. As Nieves said, 2 years ago with Oksana and with Sebastian, in late 2018, we were completing a month of work with Pope Francis and cardinals and bishops, trying to set some guidelines after 2 years of active listening to youth in different contexts. Some guidelines for the Catholic Church to renovate itself. So we came up with a document, and after the document, Pope Francis had a post-synod exhortation. So we have now Sebastian from Australia and Oksana who will share their contributions also. So if Sebastian Duhau from Australia is a student in the program for secondary education specialized in history and social sciences. He's the coordinator of retirements and the Lasallian program, and he's also a member of the Youth Council in Australia. So, Sebastian, it's so nice to have you here on this session. So we will listen to you, to your contributions in the first Unus Habitati Symposium.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mariano, for that introduction. Well, as you know, my name is Sebastian, and I am from Australia. I apologize for my background, but it's 1 o'clock in the morning here in Australia, and so I have to find a spot that doesn't distract everyone else in the house that's sleeping. I want to say a huge thank you for having me today. I would love to share with you some of my own experiences of service, but also share with you some of the wonderful stories of people that I get to engage with on a daily basis. When I was 18 years old and I finished school, I started university studying engineering, and I'd been so sure for so long that that's what I wanted to do. I was so passionate about engineering, and I was so sure that that's the career that I wanted for myself. And I worked really hard during school to make sure that that's where I could go. I eventually got the results that I needed, and I started studying engineering at university. And shortly after starting my studies, I started doing youth ministry part-time at a high school nearby. It was very different from the school that I'd gone to myself, and I was there to be an older brother to the students, to support them through some difficult times, to spread joy amongst them, and to foster community around the school. And I spent my days speaking to amazing young people with different backgrounds and lots of different life experiences, and really, really great stories to share. And I absolutely loved it. And after almost a year of doing that, it became really obvious to me that engineering wasn't where I belonged, that my vocation, my calling was something else. And so I made the difficult decision to stop studying engineering, and I still call that one of the most difficult decisions that I've ever had to make in my life. And I say that because it felt like I was abandoning the career that I'd spent so long planning for myself. And shortly after that, I took a little bit of a break, and I started studying theology, and I started studying teaching as well, which is what I'm doing now. I've spent lots of time over the past few years trying to reflect on that decision and think about what changed within me to make me want to stop studying engineering. And there's a few people that have explained it far better than I could ever explain it, I think. Mahatma Gandhi says that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And Dieter Uchtdorf says that as we lose ourselves in the service of others, we discover our own lives and our own happiness. Now, those are two very, very good explanations, and here's my attempt at an explanation. I think that any experience of service involves an encounter with another person, another life. And more often than not, the encounters that we have in that service are with people whose stories are very different from our own. And I think that any time that we authentically and lovingly encounter someone that's different to ourselves, I think two things happen. I think firstly, we encounter the person of Christ in the other. And I think secondly, it's impossible not to learn something about ourselves in that process. And I wholeheartedly think that the more that we learn about ourselves, the closer we get to being the best versions of ourselves, the closer we get to being who we're created to be. And so I want to say that my ministry hasn't ended, but a few years later, now I work full-time in ministry. And part of my role actually involves providing amazing young people with opportunities to serve in different ways and accompanying them through their experience of service. And if it's okay with all of you, I'd love to share with you a couple more stories. And so these people that I get to work with do amazing things. They're all very passionate and amazing people. And these are very short stories that I can share. And it doesn't really do these people any sort of justice, but it's what I can do right now. And so the first person that I want to share about, her name is Marella. She's someone that's always loved people, and throughout her time in high school, she loves people. She spent lots of time traveling around the world with her family while she was in school, and she developed this love of travel. She developed this love of culture and being able to see new things and see new sights and being able to experience culture in different ways. And so when she finished school, it was only logical for her that she wanted to travel, but instead of traveling normally, she decided she was going to volunteer. She decided she was going to move to a desert community on the other side of Australia and spend a year there volunteering in this community. And she spent a year in this community with kids and with elders, learning and being immersed in this new culture that was very different from anything she ever experienced. And after a year of doing that, when it was time for her to come home, she didn't go home. She stayed in this community, and she stayed there for another 2 years. And after 2 years of doing that, she then came home, and having learnt lots more about herself and figured out where she wanted to go and what she wanted to do, she found herself with a new sense of purpose, and eventually went to university and started studying teaching. And I'm very proud to say that she's soon to become a teacher, hopefully next year. The next person that I want to share about, his name is Matthew. He's very different as well. He's someone who admits that he did absolutely nothing in school. He didn't take advantage of any of the opportunities that were available to him. He didn't enjoy school. He sort of went to school in the morning and left in the afternoon, and that was his experience. He wanted to be out of there as quickly as he could. And for some reason along the line, he decided that instead of just finishing school, that he actually wanted to spend time volunteering after he finished school. And so he applied for one of our volunteer programs and spent a year, again, in a different community on the other side of the country, and had such a profound experience in that volunteering that after having no connection to any sort of faith or spirituality, decided that while he was there, he was going to get baptized. And so he was baptized while he was there and came home having this profound experience, and then again decided to go to university to study science, something that he was really passionate about. And the last person I want to share about is, again, a different story, someone named Joel. And he was one of the brightest people in his school community. He was ridiculously smart and could have done anything he wanted when he finished school. And when he finished school, he got into university to study law, but instead of going straight to university, he decided he wanted to spend time volunteering instead. And he spent time volunteering, and for him, rather than changing what he wanted to do, it actually just furthered his passion, furthered his understanding of himself, and he came back more excited than ever to study law. And that's what he's doing now. Now, all these stories are different, and all these stories are experiences of people's service, and I'm very, very proud and pleased to say that I get to accompany all those people and hear their stories and be with them through their experiences of service. But essentially, the long story short in all of this is, as I think you all know, is the experience of serving others transforms us for the better. It helps us to become better versions of ourselves and to come closer to discovering our vocation. And I think ultimately, more than gaining a qualification, more than just the simple side of education and things, I think that's what learning in school and in university is all about. I think that's what lots of people actually try to spend their lives trying to do. And what that is just finding out where we belong in the world and finding out where we have the most to offer. And so I think ultimately, that's what service does. It gives us that opportunity. It gives us the opportunity to learn more about ourselves and learn about ourselves in a way that education doesn't, but in a way that when we do that hand in hand with education, it creates something beautiful and allows us to find our place in the world better than anything else could. And so ultimately, at the end of all this, I just want to say thank you to each of you who are educators and each of you who engage people in service and see the wonderful effects of service and the transformative power of service and what that has to offer. I want to say that as a young person, I've seen the ability that service has to change people's lives, and I'm so fortunate that I get to do that with other young people. And I want to say to any young people that might be listening that service is amazing, and anytime you take the opportunity to step out of yourself, step out of your comfort zone, to try and do something different and authentically encounter someone in service, that it will do amazing things for you and it will absolutely transform you in the best ways. So those are the things that I have to say, and absolutely thank you for having me here today. I've really appreciated this, and I'm really looking forward to being more involved in all the things that you have to offer.
Sebastián, muchas gracias. Realmente tu aporte, hiciste traer nombres y rostros concretos a estos espacios y a este simposio. Sin duda, esas 3 historias que nos has manifestado y compartido también nos ayuda a conocerte más a vos. Como vos bien dijiste, ¿no? Es eso, cuando uno se encuentra con alguien, puede también visibilizar un poco lo que es uno. Así que, Sebastián, muchas gracias por compartirnos esas historias y el servicio, y ver que el servicio tiene poder, ¿no? Y eso es algo importante. Ahora quiero invitarlos a escuchar a Oksana Pimenova. Ella es de Rusia y ella es politóloga, consultora psicológica, es directora adjunta de los asuntos académicos del Instituto Santo Tomás de Moscú, y también participa en la pastoral juvenil de la Arquidiócesis María, Madre de Dios, en la misma ciudad. Oksana, estamos muy contentos de poder compartir con vos y de poder escucharte, así que bienvenida.
Greetings to everyone. I thank the organizers for inviting me to participate in the panel discussion. I deeply support the idea of developing service learning in educational institutions, so I'm very happy to be here. When I got to know about Uniservitate, I was struck by the profound sense of this initiative. The truth is that most young people here in Russia today enter universities solely for the purpose to mastering a profession in order to earn money, be competitive, and be successful. And when I hear stories like this, I always ask myself, why do we need higher education? Why do universities exist? Is it the only purpose? So in my opinion, the development of service learning can serve to update the educational system and be a revolutionary response to this paradigm. Together with Sebastian and Mariano, I took part in the Synod, Young People, Faith and Vocational Discernment. So in my speech, I would like to draw attention to the ideas and proposals of Synod, which can be useful and complementary to the renewal of educational system and the development of service learning. First of all, I would like to note that as a young person, I was deeply impressed by the opportunity not just to observe, but to be a part of the Synod, because it meets my need as a person who wants to be fully involved. On the one hand, they offer to participate, the opportunity to speak and be heard, and on another hand, sharing the life journey together form the basis of my perception of the new pastoral care with young people, not just on intellectual level, but including all aspects of my humanity. And I believe this method works regardless of what field it is used in. The holistic immersion and the involvement of young people in the process of updating the educational system, more specifically in service learning, not as passive participants, but as active collaborators, can encourage and inspire young people and make them real protagonists of this change. Secondly, despite the variety of topics discussed at the Synod, many of them eventually led to the question how to build a relationship with young people in the modern world. Relationships are the key to the ability to pass on knowledge and accompany on the path of knowledge. And I see that in this regard, there are main directions and principles that can find concrete forms of expression in each country and culture. One of the main principles that I and I hope other auditors were able to experience at the Synod was synodality. I mentioned about this before, journey together. So synodality is the method or approach that means gathering and bringing into dialogue the gift of all members, starting with young people, to solve ancient and new challenges. Such involvement implies participation in the discussion of key issues and their implementation, and therefore joint responsibility. Young people have a need to be co-workers, protagonists, but they also need to be accompanied along the way. The accompanier who respects their freedom and at the same time promotes their growth. And very often this is also their relationship, the young people that I myself am looking for in the learning process. Despite synodality, mentioned principles include participation, joint discernment, and joint responsibility, listening, dialogue, go out to the periphery, holistic approach, moving from structures to relationships, etc. All these principles are suggested to renew youth pastoral care, but as you can see, many of them are directly related to service learning. For 2 years after the Synod, young youth ministry offices in different countries have been searching the most appropriate ways to implement these principles in their realities. So I'm sure that drawing attention to this experience can complement the process of updating the educational system, and on the other hand, also find common ground with communities of young people who implement the same principles through the opportunities that are available to them, including through education. So I think these are the main ideas I wanted to share with you. Thank you for your attention.
Oksana, muchas gracias. La verdad,
Oksana, thank you very much.
estas orientaciones que ha marcado el sínodo, ¿no?
These guidance given by the
principales que tuvo
Bishop
los jóvenes, la fe y
Synod
el
is
discernimiento
a challenge.
vocacional.
There are many
Dijo Oksana, son para
three main themes: the young people, vocational choices, and a third one in order to support the evolution of the life of so many young people. So thank you very much, Oksana, for your contribution from Russia, your knowledge, and your kindness in this, in order to close this section or this session, this panel, whose title was The Voices of the Youth, and we might also call it the cry of the youth. When we say voices, we may talk about something peaceful, but young people also shout, cry out to talk about different issues they face: poverty, injustice, and we are talking about the youth, about everybody. We want to include everybody. At this synod, we talked a lot about this term, and we realized that among the youth there is wide diversity and pluralism. That's why we want to say the youth's different stages and different parts of the youth, and they all face scenarios of lots of happiness, but also lots of sadness, unfairness. They are the ones that suffer so many injustices, but we want these voices and these cries to be heard, to be listened to. At the first Universitate Symposium, we have been able to listen to the youth. Listening is much more than just hearing. Paying attention to the lives of the youth, and not only the youth who are studying at our educational institution, but also those that will never go to university, will never get this higher education, but we will meet them at some point through the project, the process, by going out to the communities, reaching out to the communities where our institutions are located. But in order to be able to listen to people, we have to stop. We have to delete some items of our agenda so as to stop and have time to listen to the youth, listen to them thoroughly, stop our activities. Very often, when we are managing processes, working with deliverables, we don't have time to listen thoroughly to what the youth have to say. This is very important, to listen to one another, and not without being thinking of the answer as we are listening to them. We should listen to them openly so that they may feel that they belong to an institution, educational institution, that they belong with home environment, where with actions that are carried out at homes, and they know this. The youth feel valued, appreciated really quickly when they are listened to without any prejudices. When we sit face to face with them, it's important to make them feel that they are part of a home, and listen turns us into actors, turns people into actors. They want to be there, they believe it's valuable. And solidarity-based actions, well, we know that for a project to be service learning is we need students to become leaders. They must feel that they are listened to. They become the actors, the leaders. They are engaged. They want to be the leaders of a change process. So they feel they belong. So it's actual, real leadership. It's not just having young students doing this or that to do what others thought or devised. Service learning shows us that the youth have to express their feelings, they have to think, to assess, to carry out the process and implement it. This is what it means to be leaders. It's not being leaders by acting, by doing things. They should feel, so they should sit down and plan with their tutors, professors, deans. And that's why I would like to mention what Oksana said. We have this climate environment of synodality. Service learning has been using this concept for a long time. So it's shared responsibility for a project. It's brilliant to live in a synodal environment, doing things together, doing things for the community, with the community, so that everybody sits around the same table. A missionary synodal church. In the youth synod, we listened to this call. We had a missionary synodal going out, reaching out, going out to meet. And as Sebastian said, leaving behind our comfort zone and going out, reaching out, meeting diversity, meeting those who are different, meeting the community. But it's not going out for a walk or going shopping. It's going out to live in those places where God lives, among the people. And this is a challenge for sure, but service learning makes this possible. And it's important for educational institutions, universities, to be able to go out, to meet those who are different. And though we should realize they are not the enemy. These are people I want to learn from and who may learn from us. We should build this polyedric world where we live in community, in communion, in diversity. So we don't go out, but we don't go out by ourselves, because we don't want to invent the youth to be ours. Very often we take up the youth people, we tell them, you belong to us, you belong to our university, to our pastoral, and the young people belong to the world, to the reality, and we must support them. We shouldn't create silos. They should go out. They should be able to work in a coordinated fashion with others. And the youth pastorals at the local, regional, and national level may provide our institutions, our university institutions, with a lot of knowledge, together with other spaces, cultural, artistic, and social ones, because it's there where, as a church, and as Pope Francis has said, we should walk side by side with others to bring about a change in this world, in this society, being able to watch and see. Service learning reminds us the Jesus's pedagogy, that teacher who walked side by side with people, who listened to them, who taught them things, who invited them and suggested or proposed a dream to change reality. Service learning invites us and reminds us of this. We should look or watch reality, feel it, analyze it, plan to change, to bring about changes, and practice those values. These pedagogies drive the young people, because young people are continuously looking for things. And we invite them, when we invite them to join the community, when we encourage them, when that vocation wakes up in their hearts, they respond brilliantly. And we can see this in these different times we are going through, how youth or young people, not only Catholics, but also from other religions, even those who are willing to do something but don't believe in something or somebody, are there to share their time, their hands. The young people are still inviting us to dream. They are still encouraging us to dream, to keep on dreaming. And in closing this nice session, I believe this is really great to listen to the voice of the youth at Uniservitati, and also the voices of other actors, professors, the community, etc. I would like to close with a statement. A prophet died a short time ago, Don Pedro Casaldália, a bishop in Brazil who worked in this field for many years, and he said, at the end of the road, you will tell me, you have lived. Have you lived? Have you loved? And without saying anything, I will open up my heart, which will be full of names. I hope that each of us, from our own roles and places, contributing and taking service learning to our communities may be able to keep in our hearts the names of many people, people we know and people we don't know, that we may keep on feeding our hearts with so many lives. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mariano. Thank you, Sebastian, for staying up until so late to join us. Thank you, Oksana, for bringing here the reality of the synod from Russia. And thank you to all of you who participated in the first Uniservitates Symposium. We are coming to the close of the symposium, and I don't want to say too many things because I want you to remember the words of youth. Just let me reinforce what these brilliant youth representatives have told us. As universities, we need to feel part of the pastoral youth movement. We need to know that we can count on them, because all of us that have gone through the pastoral movement of youth know that youth know how to attract young people that sometimes Catholic institutions push away. So it is youth that bring them back. So we have a lot to learn from them, from their passion, their commitment. So thanks again, Mariano, Sebastian, and Oksana. Thanks to all panelists, to all facilitators, all of you who are making the Uniservitate dream possible, to plant the seeds of service and of concrete love for others through our educational institutions. In closing, let me give the floor to María Rosa for her to share some information about the future steps in the Uniservitate program, and I'll see you soon. Thank you. I'm very moved by the testimonials and the words shared by Mariano, Sebastian, and Oksana. In 1 year, we were able to put together a very rich team. And because of the limited time, I'm not going to mention all the names of the team members, but if you visit our website, you will be able to know who is part of this wonderful team. Let me also thank the CLICE team and the teams of all the institutions that are part of Uniservitate from 43 countries. In this symposium, we have had representatives of higher education institutions from 43 countries in the 5 continents, and this leads me to 2 final thoughts. This idea of the church in missionary departure to go to the periphery, and as we said in one of the presentations, Catholic higher education should also go to the periphery, to the margins, and reach out to people there and share all this wealth. So I invite you to follow us on social media, to post messages so that we can disseminate this information and we can all learn together. From our website, you will be able to get information on our future activities, the different invitations that we will have. And now, coming to the end, I need to share with you a few perceptions. And I remember the epistle to the Corinthians, because if we think about the role of Catholic universities, the role of universities as a whole and of service learning, and how we want to deal with such a difficult context in current times. So I think that we can reaffirm the words that even if we spoke all the languages of men and angels, if we don't have love, we will end up being just a bell ringing and nothing more than that. If we were able to have the gift of knowing all the sciences, all the ministries, and if all of us had the ability to have all the mountains and move them, if we have love, if we don't have love, we are nothing. We know that in times of pandemic, we will have no more prophecies, we will have no more gifts, because all of this is limited for us, but love will never go away. And we need to be thankful for having this opportunity of being together, sharing all this richness and all this love. So thank you all for joining us. I am particularly thankful for being here with Nieves on this program, and I want to thank all the members of the team, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you all.
Los invito a todos a que